welcome to Unlocking the Golden Cage. Today, we're going to be speaking with a motivational medicine doctor, Larry Grogin, who's also a chiropractor. And he was a really important part of developing many of the themes of the Golden Cage. And today we're going to talk about that story, how that happened, and see some of those themes, some of those scenes. So, Larry, do you remember how it happened? Hello. Why don't you just give us an idea of what you do, and then we'll talk about how you ended up being part of this show.
Okay. Well, we met at a harp festival that you were one of the featured stars of, motivating and inspiring people, and in a serendipitous, magical way. You sitting, I believe it was in a hotel lobby, sitting across a hotel lobby, that we started to chat, and from there, you touched me, and I think I like to think that I touched you back, and that was the beginning of discussing a challenge, a dream, a piece for you, and it seemed like there was a slot for me to be a part of that.
Well, yes, I would say that that is definitely a description of what happened. And my experience was that as we were sitting there on this couch and talking, you asked me something like, are you happy with your life? Are you proud of what you're doing? Are you satisfied? And I think you were asking me within the sort of the sense of how you knew me as a harp player. And I think what I said to you was like, no, I'm not satisfied. And you were like, "Well, why?" And I told you the story of the Golden Cage. I told you that I've been working on this show for a long time. It was my story. It was kind of like my autobiography. And something was stuck in me. I could not get it out into the world. And I remember that you said to me, "Well, would you be happy if it was playing on Broadway and getting awards?" And I remember I said, "I would be happy if I were working on it for 30 minutes a day, if I were living the commitment that I said that I have." And you said, "Okay, I'm gonna hold you to that." And I was like, "What?" So and then you did. You held me to that, and for, 6 months or 8 months or something like that, every night I was sending you a picture of what I had done that day in 30 minutes. And I very well remember that there was one night I got a late start, and I got a text from you saying, "If you do not send me your 30 minutes by midnight, you will burn in hell." And I burst out laughing, and I realized that I had never experienced somebody having so much commitment, more commitment to my story than I had myself. And that really made a huge impact on me. And that actually impacted one of the biggest scenes, one of the biggest themes in the show that shows up 2 times. And I'm gonna show that in a little bit. And I wanna say that we're here with Larry, and if you're seeing this, you may be able to chat with us, you may be able to ask questions, and Larry basically appointed himself to be my motivational, I don't know, guru,
So
doctor,
I think
whatever.
the word might be czar, Caesar.
So what made you take that on? And then I'm gonna show how this theme of being pushed, the power of being pushed by someone else to be your greatest self. I'm gonna show the scene where that shows up. But what I mean, when I first saw you, I was actually scared of you. I saw you standing there, and I was like, "That is a scary guy. Stay away from him." So, but then I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna face my fears, and I'm gonna talk to this guy." So what made you take that on? Is that something that you take on for other people?
Well, there's a piece that you leave out that fits beautifully into the play, because you credit me with appearing and jumping into that position, and I would credit you with saying, I have a seat next to me, and if you'd like to sit down in it and help hold me accountable, something magical might happen. I'll share a quick story with you. In the office, when a patient had some great response to therapeutic treatments and they were appreciating and thanking me, I said, I won't take credit and I won't take the blame. And I think it applies here. You're so quick to appreciate, and I'm honored to have been a positive influence. But it was all by proxy of you and proxy of your decision. When you saw me, you said, I'm gonna avail myself of this person's heart and soul to help support me because I believe in myself enough to. And that was the pivot that I viewed from my seat.
Did
I
you actually hear me say something like that? Because I don't I remember I was just sort of like, almost taken aback.
Well, there's a what is the quote that I used to say frequently in the office? I try not to be distracted by what people are saying so I can hear what they're thinking and feeling.
Uh-huh. So I think what I'm hearing you say is that somehow I was calling out for this kind of accountability.
Yeah. You allowed me to be in that place and allowed me to have a piece of the power, the force to inspire and help you, but it all came from inside of you. It was all your story and your willingness to take a chance and let it be heard. Thank goodness.
Well, you were the thing that made that happen, because just those 30 minutes each day, that was the thing that got me from being stuck. I had finished the show before in certain situations, but then I was completely stuck again. And those 30 minutes and having them to send to you and realizing that sometimes I would just send you a picture of what I'd done, but knowing that I was going to send that to you, that's what made it move along. And you weren't asking for anything like, and it better be good. It was just like, it's those 30 minutes.
It was
And
just
then,
was just showing up, and I don't know if you recall, but I remember a couple of weeks into our journey, you accomplished nothing, and you said, I'm showing up with nothing to show you. And I said, today's a great day because you showed up with nothing to show me. And that was a pivotal change. And the next day was very productive.
okay. Um, it's great to hear because I haven't really asked you for your side of this experience. When you wrote to me and said if you don't send me your thing, you're going to burn in hell. Did you know that that was going to be really funny?
I don't know what was funny about it. I meant it.
I know that that was what was funny. So I want to show a scene from the show. I want to make. I hope I. Oh, I keep uploading the wrong one. All right. I think I need to upload it again. Okay, so we won't be able to see that right away because I keep uploading the wrong thing. But you know what? Actually, maybe we can just let me just look at my I wanna just check my screen and see what's going on here and why I keep sending the wrong thing. Alright, maybe I labeled them wrong or something. Alright, well, let's see if you can even see I'm gonna try pulling this up. I'm so scared that I did this wrong. Let me show this. Let me show.
Can't imagine how it sparkles out there. Can't you see the gleam?
Okay, great. All right, this is going to work. So in this scene, there are two characters, and one character is locked in a cage, and that looks like it's cement and iron to her, and the other one is a flying person, and he wants to get her out because he wants to get into this cage. And in this moment, so in a sense, he becomes the motivation for her to leave, but she's not sure that she wants to leave. And this scene had always been in the show, but it had never been clear how why does he do what he finally does? Because he finally does something that is in some ways almost evil. And so knowing that you were pushing me, I just want to show this because this is how that concept and that feeling and how I began to realize how important that was in any transformation. And this is how that ended up in the show itself.
Can't imagine how it sparkles out there. Can't you see the gleam on the bay?
No, I can't.
Can you imagine?
No, I can't imagine.
Can
No.
you imagine the rhythm, the music?
The rhythm, the music.
Yes. moment of freedom.
Pounding in your head.
When first you spread your wings and start to fly.
I can imagine how it sparkles. I can imagine how it shines.
You can imagine, and imagining makes me want to spread your wings and soar. Open wings and take the leap.
Push me, Boris, push me. Take me to the edge and show me that I can fly. Let me take the leap of believing.
You can fly, maybe you can fly. You can fly, you can fly.
I wanted to play that whole clip because I wanted to show the whole transition of someone who is longing for freedom but cannot do it themselves. And then even filled with it, they can't do it. And they turn to someone else and say, push me. And that person does push them. And that doesn't mean that it always leads immediately to glory, because in the show and also in my own life, it doesn't mean like suddenly, boom, everything's easy, but it is the catalyst.
You made that choice to allow me to harmonize, to allow me to support you and help you and to let your story, to have the courage to share your story. And you're such a complex person, Deborah, because you vacillate between a fierce independence and a fierce harmony.
Now, is this something that you've done for and with other people as well? I'm assuming it is, because you just took it on like a duck to water.
Well, I suppose, but what really matters in this, I think, is that you provided an opportunity through sharing your story for me to be able to connect and to be able to. You and I have talked about music, and each of us have our special gifts. My special gift might be helping the sounds, the beautiful tones, the harmony that scene ended on was two people harmonizing, two people producing what they did, but in different, broadly different ways. So I suppose so.
And do you see that? I mean, you work as a chiropractor, so I'm assuming you see people stuck within themselves.
Well, a successful experience that I have with people in the office is when they discover that they're powerful and that they're the primary catalyst for their healing. And it's with the help of somebody trusting me as a healer, or trusting others around them to open their heart. It comes down to that fundamental equation that an open heart is sending and receiving love. And the beautiful story that you tell in the play is a story that you had the courage to tell. I like to think, feeling that you were not alone and you were supported. And I recognized the beauty in that story and the power in that story. And so you were able to share it. And that's the meaning in our lives, to be able to be seen and heard and connect and share our stories. Have the courage to do that.
You just said an open heart it becomes a magnet. I mean, you didn't say exactly that, but I heard something like that. And as I go back and look at the show, and which is like a huge dream that I had in my life that I'm now getting to analyze, I noticed that there was one moment in the middle of the show, which I won't be able to show here, but where the two characters trust each other, where they give and take trust. And as I've since looked at the show, everything that happens after that sort of gallops through horror and bad and good or whatever, but it's that whatever happens after that is galloping towards transformation, and it becomes inevitable and unimportant at the same time. And I think that's what I'm hearing you say, that open heart, or what I've come to realize is that a heart opened even for a split second seems to open up to transformation after that.
You
And you
open
say,
up the transformation is their truth, and their willingness to share their truth. That story that you so wanted to share and that you wanted to complete, to tell the story of what you struggled with and what you succeeded with and all that in between, was that authenticity. In psychotherapy, we seek to have our authentic feelings show, whether they're happy or sad or angry or grievous or frightened. And this is a parallel in our bodies. We do the same thing to have that authenticity. And when somebody witnesses us, that when I would see patients in the office, my greatest job was to listen to them and to know that they're being heard. And that's what that night back, that fateful night back in that hotel, you had a problem. You had an orthopedic problem with your foot, which was an opportunity for me to touch you. And you looked up and you said, "He's listening, he's feeling, he's hearing." And I appeared to know what I was doing, and all I was doing was listening. And now
eh,
expanded that audience. Now there'll be theaters filled with people listening. Hopefully, they won't all grab your ankle.
well, I mean, it's interesting because as I think about it again, for people who are just listening, you looked scary to me when I first saw you for whatever reason. And then you're welcome. And then when you were sitting on the couch, I actually said to myself, okay, stop it. You're scared of this person. Just go and just sit down next to that person and talk to them. Um, and So, well, I mean, I feel like that says something to people. Why do you think? I mean, I don't know why I was scared of you, but um, and there was something in that, and in that honesty that it seemed to make perfect sense for you to be like, okay, I am now gonna tell you what to do, but not in that way. But it was like, I am going to take on your struggle with yourself. I'm going to take that on.
I'm gonna take on giving it authenticity and giving it value. And what might have looked scary from across the room was because it showed in my face that I was willing to listen.
Hmm.
Not me, for gosh.
There were times when and I don't we talked on the phone almost never. It was almost always just through text.
Right.
And it would be kind of fun to go back and find those texts. And there was one point where I was really struggling with the show, and you said, asked me a question, something like, okay, in 2 words, 1 word for each character, tell me where they were at the beginning of the show, before the show began. Where were they? And at the end, where were they, after the show ended?
Right. The way it was phrased was what changed during the course of the show. What changed from the beginning to the end? What was that change? Whether it's transformation or realization or what was it? But what was the change? Do you remember what your response was?
Yeah, I mean, it took me, I think it took me a couple of days of looking back and forth, and then finally I had the revelation that in the beginning of the show, Althea was alone and Boris was lost. So he was lost outside the cage, which still made him alone. The cage was, they were both stuck in the cage. He was stuck in being obsessed with finding it, and she was stuck having found it and being inside of it. She was alone and he was lost. And that then led to a very powerful song at the end of the show. And I'm just going to say the words and then I'm going to show that scene. And there were 2 parts to it, and one of the parts got cut, like so many things that you love, they get cut on the, cutting room floor. But she said, it's the revelation of the show when she realizes what the cage is. And she says, you build your cage from dreams that died and every heartache that you ever held inside. You forge the bars from every pain and sorrow you have known. And in your cage, you are alone. And then in the original song, Boris then sang, the quest, the flight, the endless night, the taste of glory that you doubt you'll ever find. And all the time you're aching for a trust you fear you'll never know. You're torn, you're tossed, outside the cage, you're lost. And finally, I understood where they each came from. And I was able to then, live inside that as I told the rest of the story. And I'm going to show that scene now where you can see that music in action. Hopefully, I've uploaded the right one now. And this is at the end of the show.
But you didn't have wings when you were in the cage.
Where are yours?
Well, I don't deserve wings. I'm a murderer.
I asked you to push me. I needed you to push me.
But then why can't I get out?
What did you do when you got in?
Nothing. I put the bars back up.
Then take them out again.
I can't. Can't you see? It's cement. It's iron.
So that's how it happens. It's not the cage that traps you. It's when you lock yourself inside. And the key is when someone reaches in.
And you reach back.
You build your cage from dreams that died, from every heartache that you ever held inside. You forge the bars from every pain and sorrow you have known. And in your cage you are
Alone.
Take the bars and we'll throw them away forever.
Take the bars.
Take my hands and we'll fly.
Althea,
Take the bars and we'll throw them away forever.
All my life I have been waiting, longing.
For the rhythm,
Push me,
the music,
push me,
rapture.
push me, push me. Take me to the edge and show me I still can fly. Let me take the leap of believing I can fly. Maybe I can fly. I can fly. I can fly.
And that's the end of the show.
That's pretty powerful.
Well, as I was watching it this time, I realized, that was my experience that I was actually having with you, and that is how I was able to write that into the show.
It's so beautiful, though. That's that open heart, sending and receiving love, having the courage to share the story, having the courage to really show it. How beautiful.
What's amazing to me is that in taking on that role, it ended up impacting not just my ability to do this thing, but the theme of it. It's just, how, can you just talk a little bit more about that? I mean, I don't even know what to say about that, but that what we were doing together, this little relationship that we had through text, but that was so powerful, that was about accountability, became the accountability in the work of art itself.
Well, you gave me an esteemed place. I said it earlier, and I'll repeat it. The pivotal moment was when you said, "I for whatever illogical reason, I'm going to allow this person into my sanctum to be able to show my vulnerability, to be able to show my neediness to have some support, to have some guidance, to have." That was a big thing, and it just in meeting you, I knew immediately that that was a huge concession that you made. You made some choice, some informed choice to say, I'm going to allow Larry to sit in the front row seat. And I'm going to allow him to impact, I'm going to allow him to hold me accountable. Because without that accountability, you were in charge of everything and it was too big a project for you. I
How
did it all.
what was that last thing you said?
Ironically, you did it all. There was the illusion that you were doing it with so much support, but the support was really you allowing me to witness your truth. And you, as you showed your truth, that beautiful story came out. That story that you were, that was trapped inside that cage.
So I when I come to it, I just think, okay, was this magical? Was this something that can happen every day to every person? Like, how?
Well, you and I have discussed my love of music and the important place that music played in my heart. And we discussed how much a piece of me it was important to create music, and yet that wasn't my greatest calling. Inside me was an ability to touch people in a different way as a healer. And I consider myself fortunate that I can influence and touch other people through my healing work and make your music sound all the more clear. Not always beautiful. You could speak to that. Sometimes you create a sound that's dissonant, and that's the expression that you wanted to make, but so beautiful in so many ways because it's real and it's true. And selfishly, I'm able to do the work that I do and be able to say, your song was heard. Your song was heard, and that's a gift that I have to be grateful for, that I can influence that and change the playing field so that you can make those sounds. And look at all the people that you've touched already with viewing this play.
Yes, and as you're saying that, as you're saying your song was heard,
Yeah.
it's making me think about your other work, the work that you do as a chiropractor, and it's making me think about the work that I do as a coach, and how powerful and wonderful it is, and selfishly wonderful as well, because, when my students, or the members of the academy, when their song is heard, I'm the one who gets to hear it.
And you allowed me to hear it because you unlocked it and opened that cage. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. And for your courage to be able to fight through the resistance, the internal resistance and external resistance to your story being heard, you've touched other people that have beautiful stories to tell. So many beautiful and horrible stories to tell. How great that is, isn't it?
Yes, and I, you know, what can we leave people with that, can you go looking for that kind of, how can we create more of this in our lives? I mean, this was so powerful.
Well, I sometimes would say that you know we have to be careful who we allow into that inner space, and not just having an open door. But I would say leave the light on and leave the door open so that there's a welcome mat there for the as people pass, and to be selective, not to let everybody crowd into the room, but to, like I said, to leave the light on and the door open because it's there for us. I think that's part of the magic in our lives is that it's there when we least expect it. If our heart is open and willing to trust, willing to give an opportunity to trust, then sometimes a beautiful play will be written.
So when you say leave the light on and leave the door open,
Yeah. Well,
And I'm
suppose that that night at that hotel at that great annual harp festival, you had said, "There's a scary guy across the hotel lobby. I'll succeed at ignoring him." And I could have smiled and said hello, and you could have said hello back, and that would have been the end of it. Instead of an hour later, we were discussing, and I was, by way of your willingness to trust me enough to say, "This is crazy, I'm going to do this," something really special came out of it for both of us. An opportunity for me to touch you, and an opportunity for you to, an open heart sending and receiving love in two directions. That really is the formula. With fear, with ration causing you to say, "What am I doing?" but a willingness to take a chance.
and how would we recognize that?
Well, you would be the one to tell. You succeeded at it, so tell me. Sitting on the couch.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so, just for anybody who's joining us, when Larry and I met, and Larry ended up being really the motivation behind me completing the Golden Cage, and when we met, I he was really scary to me, but then we were at a big harp festival. For some reason, I don't know why, I'm not usually scared of people, but I just saw you and something about me was like, "That guy's scary." And then I just remember walking through the lobby and being like, "Oh, there's that guy. I'm scared of him." And I was like, "Okay, stop it. Go over and sit. Just sit next to him and have a conversation." And and I'm wondering if that's the moment when we say, "Yeah, I recognize I'm afraid. I recognize I'm afraid, and I'm gonna step towards that thing that I'm afraid of." Now, it's not always apparent to me what I'm scared of.
Well, for a moment, what would you say was scary about that moment? Because maybe there's a secret in understanding what was scary, and all the while that might be what you should look for to move towards.
Well, you looked really intense, like a really intense person. You were looking into the room. I think I was giving a workshop. You were looking into the room and you just looked intense. And, it was that intensity, and now that I'm saying that out loud, I realize, well, a lot of people tell me how intense I am, so I'm thinking maybe I saw something of myself in you.
Uh-huh. I think so. I think that everything that came about of it was your trusting me, was you saying, "I'm going to trust myself." There's some kind of blurry. You're right. You're validating that you're alone, and then validating that if somebody's there and you're able to validate you're alone, you're not alone. And to be able to, I remember one time we were taking a reflective walk, kind of reviewing about 2 months into the start of your accountability phase. And we were discussing whether you're really alone, or if you're able to discuss with somebody being alone, I guess you're not alone. You've allowed them to be company in being alone. And you can share. I shared with you something with somebody very near and dear to me, that it was through our shared grief 3,000 miles apart that we were able to validate that we weren't really completely alone. And there's some truth in that.
So what I'm hearing, and I know that the themes of the show are being lost and being alone, and I learned that, and the connection and how that connection. So, wow, I mean, I guess what I'm hearing is that when we I'm just hearing the same theme of the show. It's so funny that I keep learning the same thing over and over again. You are alone until, someone reaches in and you reach back.
And I add a little snip that somebody reaches in and you permit them to.
Mm. Mm.
Because if I were reaching in and you were saying, "This is very, very dangerous and scary," you're powerful enough to keep it locked up.
That's really interesting because in the beginning of the show, that's exactly what happens. Boris sees this beautiful, what looks to him like this beautiful cage, runs towards it, and she literally has a sword and just says, you are not allowed in here. And
That was the beginning. And then
that's right.
posed that question that we discussed many years ago, which was what changed. And at the end of the play, he was not stopped.
Right, but I didn't know what changed. I mean, I knew that there was a change, and I knew that at the end he was no longer alone and she was no longer alone, and neither of them were stuck inside this cage anymore. What I didn't know for many months, and although you're confirming it, and I think you probably told me this, but I didn't know it, was that it was trust.
Yes.
It was that moment of trust that unlocked. It didn't just unlock and then like, "Oh," like suddenly there's, now I'm free." And yet there was that unlocking that was followed by all this. So when you're working on somebody as a chiropractor and you unlock something in their body, I mean, do you have that feeling that you unlock something in their body?
I have the feeling there's an opening for them to share what was there, locked or unlocked, and I'm in a very respectful way just witnessing, validating it, and respecting it and caring about it. But you're in charge at the beginning and the middle and the end. And I think that medicine has an awful habit of the doctor fixing people or taking charge, and that's not healing. The healing comes from that moment of change, whether it's an orthopedic problem or an emotional problem. There, the health problem is some imbalance in the body and a yearning, a wanting to have an open heart that sends and receives love. And in my opinion, a good doctor is recognizing if you're needing more sending love or more opening to receive love, but it's an open heart that sends and receives love. And that story was told in your play so beautifully from the beginning, where there's a cage that's an iron barrier, and at the end there's little barrier. There's people sending and receiving love in two ways in a beautiful and harmonious way.
Right, and the cage isn't gone, but it's no longer a cage. They've taken the bars out of it, everything else is still there.
So what's left behind of that cage? What purpose is at the end of the play? What purpose is that cage in their life?
Well, I mean, this is one of the questions that I had as I was writing the show. What does Boris find in the cage? I mean, he's searched his whole life to find this cage. This cage was the mythology that he was told about. And what if there was something so valuable that it was worth a lifetime of searching? What did he find? Well, they found each other. They found a not just a companion, but someone who also had been on the same search. They found each other and themselves in that cage. The cage was the catalyst for them to find each other, not just like, "Oh, hello there," but find each other in duress so that they really could connect.
And they shared their authentic selves, didn't they? They shared their real story. They spoke from the beginning to the end. There was such a powerful transformation to how they were able to communicate openly and say, "This is my truth."
You mean like from the beginning they were all, lies and
Yeah.
defenses and everything like that?
And at the end, they were just there. They were just being
Right. That's
worse.
right.
And they still shared challenges, and they shared triumphs, and they shared beautiful music.
And they shared the same experience of actually, of freedom and of reaching to each other. I mean, for me, one of the most powerful things of the show that I love is that each of them asked the other to push them. "Take me to the edge and show me that I can fly."
And that asking was what you did in that hotel lobby. That's where the story came full circle, because that was that great moment, that great and courageous moment when you said, "Hail Mary."
I'm gonna sit down next to this scary guy and see what he has to say. Well, Larry, is there anything else that you would like to tell people who are who watch this, because people do watch afterwards. And
Yes,
what do you want to say to them?
I would tell every pair of ears that's listening to rush out and see the show, and encourage others to see the show, to take that courageous leap of truth,
Well, thank you.
and to support that process in any way they can.
Yeah, that was a big moment that I had just a minute ago when you were talking, and I got suddenly realized the power of the audience, the power that they bring to actually bring that story alive. Because that's what you were. You were an audience in just such a deep, deep level of response and witnessing. And I'm seeing that every person that witnesses a story in someone else, or a story on the theater stage, they are that witness that actually brings that story alive.
So I have one other thought, that for everybody that's listening, to have listening parties, and you can explain the details of how they can view it at home, and maybe get together with groups of 5 or 6 people and have truth fests, where you could sit around, watch it, and then take a few moments afterward to share what was unlocked, and what did that cage feel like at the beginning and the end of the viewing.
That is something I'm really excited about doing and empowering. And one of the things that we've built is a cage unlocker journal, is a bunch of prompts to just sort of help people along that journey of seeing just the questions of their own life in relationship to the questions of the show. So I love that idea of people watching that together. And one of the things that I'm trying to create is when people do watch it virtually, to then have events where they can come. I have this fantasy of hundreds of people coming um, after watching the show, with some prompts of questions, and then being put in breakout rooms with people they don't know all over the world, to be able to talk about these themes, because they are the themes of our lives.
You reminded me of something that we did discuss, not in text but in person, and that was, if you remember, you were on this quest to finish this project, to speak from this story that you had struggled with in your whole life. And I don't know if you remember it, but I said to you that you have more than just a desire to do it, you have a responsibility to do it, because the world needs this story to be told, and needs to be empowered, encouraged, enlightened. And I remember you were such a good scout. You said, well, now that you say that, I feel a greater responsibility to finish my work, because other people are counting on it.
And that just happened in what you just said. The minute you said what you just said, that I have a responsibility, I felt that responsibility.
You're a good citizen.
Larry, thank you so much for talking about this and sharing about this. I really wanted to share this. I hope that it helps others to have these kinds of relationships that let us open up what is in us, to open to someone who's, I mean, I don't know where there is anybody else like this in the world, but I have it that they're there.
They're there, and you make sure that you recognize that, now that you've had the courage to share your story, it was a very beautiful story. So keep singing.
I will.
Amen.
Amen. Okay. Thank you, Larry. And thank you, everybody who has watched this while we were here and also later on. Thank you so much.